Hello Internet. I just thought I'd actually do a look back at the first comic book I ever illustrated. It was the League of Volunteers for Atomic Diner. I suppose now that the Bog Road is out, it's a good way to kind of compare the two just as an artist and like just creatively what I think and technically the comparisons and just what I could do to improve. Like looking back on this, is there anything I learned in the Bog Road that I think I could have done better? When I look back at the League of Volunteers, the cover, still really happy with the cover. Maybe the colours I coloured this, like they're a bit dull. Like if you look at the colours here, there's just a bit more vibrant. They pop a bit more. But as an image, I think it still holds up pretty well. It tells kind of a nice story. It is that kind of movie poster style comic, but I think this fits a bit more in with the League of Volunteers brand. You know, to have this type of a cover, like it's a bit more pulp superhero-y, whereas the Bog Road is kind of like a dark fantasy or something like so. You want to keep it a bit more mysterious and obscure. But just going through this comic here, like so, the League of Volunteers was a 3-part story that I actually can't remember when it was. June 2012. Okay, so that was like just over 6 years ago. Time flies. But yeah, like so, this book was in black and white. This is the first issue. Pretty happy with that first page as well. Like if you notice here, like when I started inking, I would use one of these guys, and my pencil would be fairly loose, but I would kind of work everything up with this. But I would constantly be like, I would draw the outline, then I would slowly thicken up certain lines to add my line weight. So for the first few pages on this book, that's the technique I was using. So like there's a lot more kind of thinner, precise lines at the start. This actually, the book starts out, it's like this back centuries ago, these ancient druids. I think they're in tune with the timeline, and they're going to travel forward to try and help out in a catastrophic event. Like looking at these, like some of the panels are pretty good. This panel here I don't like at all. Like if you look at the perspective, it's so flat. Like even like this balcony here that the druids are standing on, like in the horizon line there's it's very tangenty. Like those low rows of trees all line up, and the mountains line up exactly with this edge here. Like so, it just creates a kind of bizarre look to it. Like even the framing on this panel, the way maybe I was trying to kind of lead out to here, but I don't know, lead out to what, I'm not too sure. But then like some of the other panels are nice. Like I really like this panel. I like the lighting. Some of these are nice as well, you know, like it's nice to have the little progression. Maybe this could have been a lot more powerful if it was in a bigger panel. Like sometimes with comics you have to squash a lot in. I think if I was a writer and artist, I find sometimes if I come across these challenges, I would spread out the pages. Whereas a writer, I suppose they write out what they see as important. But if you're actually doing the writing and the art, you can I suppose you can flesh out certain scenes if you want. This final page on that first scene where the druid casts some spells and he actually turns into a raven and travels forward into the future. This was the last page where I used the that fine liner pen, and then here I think really I started to realise after a few pages that it was taking too long. Like I've no patience when it comes to drawing pages. I want everything to be right straight away. I want the first line to be that's it and just to move on. So here was where I started to try and use brush, and I might have actually either used this pentel or a dip brush, I can't remember, but you can see kind of the lines are a lot thicker here, and maybe not as precise as the previous pages. So this whole scene is actually the Germans are in Ireland, and they're bringing all this equipment. I think they're in the west of Ireland somewhere. I kind of like that panel. Like, there's a nice frame in there. You know, you've got something in the foreground and the background. Whereas, like, say for example, this panel, I wouldn't be a fan of this. Like, the perspective is all over the place. It seems like I've just put a bike in here flat, and then this weird kind of ridge. It just doesn't work. Whereas, like, this series here is really nice and dynamic. Like, you've got that upshot. You've got this soldier working on this kind of pulpy type contraption, and there's a vortex opening, and then the lightning strikes, and then this actually is the guy, the main character, the Glimmer Man. He's looking down on the action. But I think, like, if you compare that to this, it's very flat. There's nothing exciting about it, or it's just wrong perspective wise. This is nice, kind of character coming out of the from the shadows. Nice focus on this guy, someone who's important. I can't remember his name actually, but he was like the main kind of orchestrator for the Germans. But like, yeah, like here, this is nice. Like, I still think I would probably do it a lot better, but just looking back on it, it's nice and dynamic. You know, like, nice perspective. The motorbike right up at the screen, you've got that depth, which is what you want, and there's kind of some nice light. And I actually shaded all of this stuff in digitally, so it kind of gives you that extra bit of safety. Like, you can just do the line work and not have to commit to any like inking on the page, and then you can add all your lighting afterwards, like, and then you can change it as much as you want. Like this sequence here, it's kind of exciting. Like, yeah, I like this panel, kind of turning and skidding in the close-up. This one's a bit funny. So the scale seems off in the perspective. Obviously, that's the problem sometimes when you're trying to plow through pages. You can't really stop to make too many changes. Well, especially if you're doing it traditionally on paper. And it's probably a good thing as well, because you can move on. This page, actually, these panels are okay, but I actually like this series here. It's kind of introduced the main bad guy. He comes straight in and kills a soldier, and then you get this close up with all the bullets bouncing off him, which is nice. Then he looks back, and here's the Glimmer Man shooting at him. They have a nice little exchange here. It's pretty good. It's not too bad. Like, and this other character turns up, the archer. So yeah, it's action packed. This here, I would say now, is the scale is off on this. Like, the Glimmer Man, he's getting knocked into the foreground, and he looks even smaller than the guy behind him. Now, the bad guy, Bokanak, I think his name was, he would be bigger than the Glimmer Man, but the fact that he's been knocked into the camera, he should be bigger than that. Like, you'll notice all along here I'm using a brush. Everything's much thicker. Like, I think when you start out with a brush as well, you can be a bit heavy-handed. You don't have the lighter touch when it comes to the brush. Not a fan of that face. This panel actually, or this page actually, I really like. It's a nice series of images. I love this side view with the light, and then you've got some trees in the foreground. Then straight in here, you see who's inside. They're obviously getting chased down by this bad guy, and then they swerve off the road and hit the car. There's a nice shot looking down, and then another one here. You're kind of framing the car crash against a tree, and you see this guy getting out, and then he runs towards the camera and gets knocked down. Like, so that kind of works. You've got like really nice variety of sizes of panels, types of shots. You actually have some more reference than just characters like jumping around. I think a lot of comics kind of fall down on that. Like, there's just too many figures and not enough reference. Like, I've probably done it in this myself, but I'm trying to move away from that. Like, So yeah, there's some nice here, like even this was referenced, which definitely adds to it. This page here as well, I was quite happy with some of these views. Like if I compare two panels here, like so this one here, you've got two characters talking, you've got one in the foreground kind of reaching towards the back, and it looks really interesting. Whereas this one here, it's kind of like two characters just side by side, and then you've got these trees behind which all look very flat. Like so, that's something I now try and stay well away from. Like even these here, like I suppose that's a close up of the body. But even this, like you've got a hand reaching from off shot in towards the guy and grabbing his head, like he's actually scanning his mind, and he's looking at what's going on in the world at the time. It's all set during World War2, and you've got the Nazi regime. Kind of like, I suppose, with it, excluding this panel here, like there's a nice kind of montage here, just kind of portraying what's going on. These panels here, these two pages, I wouldn't be a huge fan of these when I look through the book. Just some of the shots, they're not that interesting. A lot of flat shots, like this would be more what you want to go for, like a shot up with at the black, or it's a raven or something like that, looking down at the two characters talking. Or here you've got some nice dynamic shots as he chops this guy's head off. That's a nice little series there, open up a portal. But yeah, like there is a lot of flat shots there, and actually the brush I was using here, like I think I go tight again on some of these are very tight. I think what I actually done here was I used brush first, and then I went in with the pen afterwards to try and I suppose add detail and tighten it up, but I just don't think that works. Like this is actually a lot looser. There's a lot more energy and flow to this. Looks great. Then actually the last few scenes, which I won't go into too much, like, but this was me. I think I had gotten frustrated with the brush pen at this stage, and I was back with my little fine liner. So you've got all these little fine lines. I can just, my personal preference, these just look too laboured, and it's not really the style I want to go for. Now there is some nice kind of perspective in there. I am actually using perspective, trying to do a better job than other pages that I tackled previous. But yeah, it was back to the thin line. The last page is probably my least favourite. Just the characters, the proportions, how they look. I actually think this page stretched. If memory serves me, there was an issue with the dimensions or something. But yeah, like I learned a lot from this book, which it done really well in Ireland. Like I think a lot of people still know it to this day and still have it. Like it's a very kind of it done quite well at the time when it came out. It was issue 2. But yeah. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. It was just nice to kind of look back and compare where I am now to where I was before. Thanks for watching.